for someone who wants to get into, okay, let's break it down like this. So here's somebody who is actually doing maths or applied maths, computer science, or let's say
mm,
engineering, like someone from the quantitative sciences, someone who has like a
mm,
strong
mm,
maths background.
yeah,
They're doing their final year. Um, Obviously, they're applying. They want to get into the banks.
mm,
Foremost, let's start with the roles. What roles can someone with that background, maths, applied maths, computer science, you know, what, or let's say statistics, mathematical statistics, like
mm,
as someone who's already in the industry, give
mm.
someone the 101 of these are the roles in banking that someone from a maths background or from a mathematical science background can get into.
Mm. Yeah, so there would be like your key roles, which take majority of people from a quantitative background, right? So the common one is, of course, being a quantitative analyst. That's definitely a common one. Being a data scientist as well. There's machine learning as well, and there's like credit analyst, those types of roles. So, but I think the first thing is, the best strategy that I use in this situation, or my advice would be, is that look at the different types of jobs that are available. And as soon as you see anything that would have a requirement that's quantitative, that of course means that you have a possibility of getting into that particular program. I would much rather focus on that, because if you focus on these few like particular roles where, yes, granted, majority of people are quantitative in background, you might lose, or like your sight might become too narrow. So you might miss certain opportunities which you would otherwise enjoy as well. So a lot of these job posts, they do state the requirements, and a lot of the grad programs state the requirements. Effectively, as soon as you see them, mathematics, physics, or mathematical science, anything quantitative, you stand that possibility of getting into that role. And I would go as far as to say, like, even if it's not necessarily very specific. So, for example, if the role says statistics, but you are a pure mathematician, I think that's still something that you should apply, because generally pure mathematicians can pick up on whatever mathematical subject it is. So that's what I would do. I would focus on that. But generally, the key roles: quantitative analysis, data science, um, credit analysis, those type of roles focus more heavily on the mathematics component.
Mhm. And and this grad programs, because I mean like they look to me that that is the entry to corporate for most people. I can't think of roles that you just get in directly, especially in banking. It looks like you have to get
Yeah.
in via grad programs.
No, I think it is still possible. So remember that there's graduate programs, and then there's also like these internships as well. So the ideal situation would
Uh,
be to aim for the graduate program. But if not, there's still the internships which you can apply to. And in some cases, you can actually like just put yourself out there for junior roles. I've known people that have jumped being in a grad program to just being in a junior role. So
uh,
yeah, it's possible. Like there's a lot of other routes as well.
oh, I see. But I've seen on your CV as well. You have done. I don't know if these are VAC works, like you were an invoice
Mhm.
clerk and data entry clerk, which was part time at
Yeah,
FMR,
that's all.
guess P2, you know. Then there is data entry clerk
Mhm.
and sales call agent.
Yeah, so
So
all
those were
of
VAC works.
no, those were like the times I was hustling, like in university,
Oh,
when it came
yeah.
to like your holiday periods and so on and so forth. That's there. I do have like proper experience for 7 months as a cryptography developer.
Yeah.
That's a permanent role that I was actually in as well. And
Yeah,
then
we mhm.
yeah, carry on.
No, I was saying that we're gonna get into in much details onto that. But
Okay.
yeah, but you can say what you wanted to say.
Yeah, and then I think I did do fact work at one place as well for like a month. And then while we're on this topic, I think, another thing that I've noticed, a lot of students who manage to do these internships during December and November, they
Hmm.
tend to get into the grad programs much quicker. Uh, like I've just noticed that.
Oh,
And yeah, I think maybe it's because they have already developed networks, and the recruiters and so on got to see how they work on a day-to-day perspective. And so that generally ends up, boosting your chances of employment after finishing your studies.
wow.
Yeah, and actually
I
some
mean this.
international, some international banks, like their pool of talent only comes from these internships actually. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've seen some banks only take after the student completes one of their internships. Yeah.
So these back works are very much important, and I
Mm,
find that students don't really know much about them, or maybe
mm,
the pool of students that I'm working with, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, people go to school holidays and they go home, and then after that they come
mm,
back, and it's like that's the time that people can use for VAC works.
exactly.
How do people get into VAC works? Where are they usually advertised? Maybe
Mm.
for somebody who
Yeah.
might.
So no, yeah, 100%. So this is one of those things where you have to be proactive. So you'd often find a lot of these postings on LinkedIn and company websites. And when you go to these career fairs, you will see the companies advertising their internships as well. So you'd have to be on that forefront. Now, if someone is not partaking in LinkedIn and looking at the different companies, of course, you're not going to be aware of all of these programs that take place. So you have to put yourself, like, constantly be on that search, like, just be up to date. Be up to date in terms of what's happening in the job industry for a graduate. And you tend to find a lot of them, especially like the bigger companies. If you go to their websites, you'd come across these, 1 month or 2 week internships in December and stuff like that.
So we shouldn't just go there for freebies, because hey, some of us will just go to this career fair. I mean, career fairs for freebies. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
get a new pen, I'm gonna
yeah.
get
For
a this
popcorn.
and this and that. You know.
Mm, mm. Yeah, no, that's those opportunities are very good for you to gain an insight, right? So it's okay to get the freebies, like take as much as you can, but at the same time, like, have those conversations, like with the HR. Go to the HR and say, okay, look, this is what I'm starting, blah blah blah. What opportunities do you have available for me? Like, what can I get into? And yeah, the response, and then you'd hear them give you a lot of valuable insights. So yeah, those things matter. And if you have LinkedIn, I mean, when you go there to meet them, like connect with them on LinkedIn after meeting them face to face as well, just keeps you in the loop. Networking tends to be a very advantageous thing in the job industry.
Are there a lot of mathematical sciences graduates where you work for the bank that you work in? Do you know a lot of them?
Yeah, yeah, there are, but then remember, this is how it becomes subjective, right? Because the industry is big. So,
Yeah.
like, a lot could be 5, a lot could be 10, to others, a lot could be 50. So,
What? Mhm.
yeah, yeah, Kiran.
I was going to ask, like, what are the in terms of the qualifications? What are the
Mm.
usual qualifications that you come across in the banks as far as mathematical sciences is concerned?
Yeah, so it's mathematical sciences itself. In other words, applied mathematics, and like at Wits, we have mathematical science. Those
Yeah.
degrees, pure mathematics as well, is quite common. There is physics as well within the quant space. Yeah. Actuarial science, of course, that definitely one. Statistics as well. So it's all inclusive to those typical fields which we assume, right? Mathematical sciences, applied maths, pure maths, physics, stats, actuarial science. You do come across all of those.
I'm asking this because,
Yeah.
the general feel sometimes that I get from students is it's like, yeah, I'm doing maths, especially those that are doing maths. I think for those that are doing
Mm,
actuarial science and statistics, because of the whole pipeline. I mean, for those that are doing actuarial science, there's already a profession which is
yes, yes, yes,
actuary, or they become actuarial
yes.
analysts. Then those that are doing statistics as well, the data science pipeline seems to be very aligned with them, and it
Mhm.
it it gives them that encouragement and stuff. But for those that are
Yeah.
doing like maths and even applied maths, they
Mm,
seem to, because there is no direct professional link as
yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
the others, then they seem to be very stranded and confused. So I just wanted to
mm,
clarify that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, like 100%. So from all of those backgrounds, the people do exist in the industry, right? It just comes down to what they chose to get into. So you'd be surprised you can find someone who studied mathematical science that's a private banker, which you would highly, or you wouldn't necessarily expect that. You might find some of them that are, of course, in the quants role. You might find some that are in data science. You might find some that are in business type of roles. So at the end, it's open. It's sort of like it's open. It just depends on if that role accepts you, it accepts you. That's it. So it's regardless of background. The only field where things are very specific is for quants, which would look for, your pure mathematics, and in some, depending on the company, they might look for specific quantitative risk management, academic backgrounds. But generally, yeah, it's open, man. You see them all over. You see them like all over in roles you wouldn't expect. So both applied mathematics and pure mathematics. I don't think that's something to focus on too much, because mathematicians, like, we want the detail, we want the insight, but this is one of those situations where you just take a step back. If it's a role where it's mentioned or there's a quantitative background needed, go for that role. So it comes down to where you want to place yourself in. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does.
I hope.
Because I
Okay.
mean, I've seen there is this lady that I've been trying to get her on the channel. Like, it looks like I'm pursuing
Mm,
her now, because now all the time I'm like, hey, it's like I'm quoting her to the channel, and she has done nuclear physics, and she's a
mm,
quant at NetBank. I've been trying
mm,
to get, because that for me is interesting, because I'm like, nuclear
mm.
physics, and now you're
Yeah,
working in a bank. I mean, how is that possible,
mm,
and stuff like that. But is what you have been saying now, to say,
yeah,
as long as you have any quantitative background, you can get on these fields, or in the
yeah,
banks. You can actually do that. So the trigger here is
yeah,
that people should look for quantitative, anything that has quantitative background, or that requires
yes,
quantitative background.
yeah. And then of course look at that role to see if it's something you want to do as well. But yeah, like I do understand, like the job market is heavily like influxed. So, but yeah, it's important to look at particular which direction you want to go and stuff. Because remember, the thing is, like, in industry, the type of knowledge that you're going to gain and work with is different, right? So that's why, like even for quants, they asked for a quantitative background because they're more looking for that person who loves numbers, who can deal with equations and stuff. But when you get
Mhm.
there, it's different content. If that makes sense, like, you'd be dealing with things which you haven't necessarily studied in any case. So it's just more about, are you someone who can do mathematics? Are you someone who can do quantitative work? Are you someone who can learn very quickly? So that's the thing, yeah.